Now the great thing about UV resin too is it's got a bit of flex to it. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies, and I'm going to have a little tutorial for you about this stuff. This is a UV cured resin from Green Stuff World. Now I have done a tutorial before, but I thought I would show you what I currently use it for, and this is for molding extra parts in conjunction with blue stuff. Now blue stuff is the thermoplastic which you put in hot water and it goes all gooey, and you can put around what you're trying to replicate, and when it cools off it maintains that shape, making molds. And I'm going to use this to copy or cast what I've molded with this. Okay, so from the top camera you can see I've got the blue stuff. In here you can see all various shapes because I've been using this for all sorts of bits and pieces. There's your UV resin, and with that, to set that, I've got the UV torch, which is here. Now, as an example of what I've done, this is my diorama which I entered for Expo. So this is what I call the Gardener of Laputa. So if you're familiar with Studio Ghibli animation, this is what I've created there. So it's one of the scenes from that animation. Now what I've done is there's some little fox squirrels on the top, which you may be able to see here if I just bend him down slowly. They're sitting on the shoulders of the robot. So I've replicated those. They're all made out of UV resin, and what I've done is I've replicated the original and I've chopped them up, the duplicates, and I've put them in different poses to make them more interesting. The other thing I've done is the girl who is here, she was originally in different clothing, and I've replicated the girl as well and modified the rest with some green stuff putty. But let me just show you initially what I've done here. Okay, so they're the components I'm going to be using. I'll show you with the fox squirrel first, which is this little character there. Now I might just zoom in here so you can have a better look. Let's see how close we can get. Right, so this is the original one that came with the kit. Okay, and what I've done is I've used some of the blue stuff, and you might be able to just see the imprint in there. So you can see the shape there, you can see the ears, and I've made a two-part mold, and here is the other side. And probably as I move it around you can see the indentations of the fox squirrel there too. That larger part there is for the tail. Okay, so you can see there. Let's zoom it out a bit because I've got a few other things to show you too. Okay, so we've got our two-part mold there, and after I squeeze some of this inside the mold, push it together and cure it with the UV torch, this is what I get out of it. So it's a clear replica of the original. Okay, you can just see it there. So it's going to have all this flash around it, which is quite easy to just remove, like so. And, well, there's a problem there. I've actually ripped off one of the ears. But that can be what happens too, because depending on how you apply it, the UV resin is quite thick, and it will have air bubbles. So that was actually an air bubble there, which tore off. But it's not a big deal because you can make quite a few of these until you get a number of them right, and then you'll be able to modify them as you go. So here's an example of one that I made out of UV resin and just primed. So you can see how it's a very good copy of what we have there. Okay, so it's going to be slightly softer in details. There might be areas where there were air bubbles, like on the bottoms of the feet, but I mean, they can be easily filled in. And then the ears are a little bit bent as well, but it doesn't really bother me because all I want is the basic look. And what I have over here is another one of these UV resin ones, which I've just cut the ear off and I changed the position of it. So what I think I'll do now is I'll show you how I actually do all of this. So I'm going to apply my UV resin. Let's see, just make sure I've got these the right way around. Okay, so there's one part. There's a part which is deeper, so I'm going to be filling this one in first. So I'm going to open up my UV resin here. Take the cap off. See how it's got a quite fine point. Now I'm going to squeeze this until I get it into all the crevices I want. I see it coming out now. It comes out like really thick honey. Okay, and it is particularly cold here at the moment, and it will become runnier if it's warmed. But I quite like it with this sort of viscosity because it will reduce the amount of drip. So I'm just applying it throughout, where all these, like where the legs are going to be, where the body's going to be. And I want to make sure that I put in quite a lot of it, because I mean the excess is just going to squeeze out the sides and become flash anyway. The tail does take quite a lot of material, and we want to make sure that there's no air bubbles. Okay, and the best way of doing that is actually use something like a skewer and just move that around to all the extremities, like so. Okay, so that's one side done. Now I'm going to apply some more to this side, simply because if I squeeze it now, it probably will not fill in everything because it does have a really thick tail. So we'll just make sure we go over all these sections again. Probably not as heavily as the first one. And that should do it there. So I'm just poking in some of these edges. Not using a skewer on this side because it is quite shallow. And that will probably do there. Okay, now I'm going to zoom this out a bit so I can have a better idea of what I'm doing. Alright, so when you're making a two-piece mold, it's important that you make irregular shapes so it actually locks in together. If you make it totally flat, you won't be able to get the two sides to align. So I've got this is really quite odd in shape, and we'll make sure it all matches up. Like so. Let's just make sure that's all in focus so you can see what I'm doing. Where are we? That's about it. Okay, so I'm going to hold these together like so. If we leave any gaps, then it's going to mold really thick flash. But I guess this is all a learning experience. Okay, so you'll do the first one, you'll see where you've gone wrong, and you'll be able to improve that with your subsequent castings. Okay, so I've got my UV light here, and when I switch it on, you'll see that it's got that ultraviolet color. So what we're going to do is we shine it inside the blue stuff. Now the UV light will penetrate the blue stuff because the blue stuff is transparent, and that'll start hardening up the resin on the inside, and you'll be able to see how quickly this actually sets up. Okay, so I've got it there, and we'll just pop this over here. It only needs a few seconds, probably doing it much longer than we need to, but just for sakes of demonstration, switch it off. Now as I open this up, you'll see how it's actually solidified, and as you bend the blue stuff, it will release the UV resin that you put into the mold. Okay, so I'm just doing it all the way around. Here we go, it's popping out. And there you go. Okay, so let's zoom in so you have a better idea. Let's get it in there. There we go. Alright, so how does it look? It actually looks pretty good. Okay, so you can see there's a lot of flash around here. And there's our original. Simple as that. Now the great thing about UV resin too is it's got a bit of flex to it. So it's got a bit of movement. So it is quite easy to work with. And then we've just got to trim all this off. So it's a bit too thick for me to actually tear off, but sharp knife will cut all those off. Actually, I haven't actually got a sharp knife on me at the moment. But when you just cure these with the light, it's actually super flexible. And if you leave it for a little bit of time, it will harden up a little bit, where it will be a little bit stiffer, such as the one that I demonstrated earlier. Okay, so this is something that I organized last week. Still got flex to it, but you can tear it like that. Okay, so there's one I did earlier, and the one I've just done now. So simple. And then if I need to do more, well, we'll just do it again, and you'll have quite a few of these ready to go in no time. Now just to show you how easy it is to glue, so we've already got our basic shapes and then we've primed them. The idea with priming them at this stage is because it's clear, priming will help you actually see your item so you know what you're doing. So what I'm going to do here is, I'll show you how it glues together. It just needs super glue or cyanoacrylate. Let's just break off one of these ears, if I can. There we go. I've broken off an ear. And we'll just use some cyanoacrylate like this. Zap-A-Gap or any good quality super glue or cyano will do. Let's just open it up. Take off the double caps. Now I'm doing this without my trusty mag visors. So I'll see how we go. So I've got a little dollop of glue there. Got the ear. Stick it in place. Oops. No, my luck, I probably glued it to myself because I can't actually see what I'm doing here. Alright, let's do this. Just have to be stable. I'm trying to glue it on an angle so it's easy for you to see. And I mean, that's just working with some really, really small stuff. And of course, you don't have to work with small stuff like this. Okay, so it just glues with super glue. And what I've done with the additional fox squirrels is I've chopped them up, I've changed the direction of the heads, and then after applying the super glue to get the basic connection, I've applied further UV resin in little sections, applied it with a little toothpick, and then built up where I need to go. Alternatively, you use putty, but I was in a hurry, so UV resin was great for doing that. So there you go. CA glue, and then you can continually add on some more putty under there. All right, so that is what I did with the fox squirrels. So that was a quick demonstration on how that works, really simple. Now what I've also done is the girl herself, she was actually in a different pose. Okay, so if I show you here on the front camera, you might be able to see there, maybe not. Let's try from the top. There's a girl there. Can we focus at this point? Maybe not. Let's take this out a bit. Oh, there you go. So you can see how she's wearing the dress. And there's a fox squirrel, because they only give you one, and that's what we've just replicated now. Now what I wanted to do was I changed her outfit because in the scene that I portrayed, she's actually wearing trousers and a top. Now if I pull her off the diorama now, you'll see here how I've changed her top. She's got a belt, and then she's got these bell-bottom trousers. Okay, so what I did was I replicated the head and legs and filled the rest out with green stuff. Okay, so I'll show you here. So there she is there. Let's pull this out a bit. There she is. Okay, so I've got her there, and what I've done is I've done the same thing here, and I've replicated the tops and the bottom part, the legs, and that's all in the UV resin. Now I've got extras here because I did do it quite a few times and I've picked out the ones that I liked. Here's her hair right there. And just with this simple technique, all we need is some blue stuff and some UV resin and the torch. You actually open up quite a lot of possibilities in modifying. And it's very easy to achieve. I mean, trying to sculpt just the face would have taken a long, long time. So we've got the face replicated perfectly here, and then we've basically glued the legs together, as you can see there. And that's given us our basic armature to work with, and then the rest was filled in with green stuff putty and resculpted. So there you go. So there is my tutorial on how to do stuff like this with the blue stuff, which is that, and UV resin. Very handy stuff and quite easy to use. So there you go. So if you enjoyed that, please give me a like on the bottom of the video, and if you'd like to see more, please subscribe. So thank you for joining me.